Okay, so this is the Outdoor Vitals one person Dominion tent, which I've set up quickly just to show you what it's like. It's designed for one person, hence the name. And just features wise, if I walk you through the features that it has an inner mesh tent, as you'd expect for most of the tents, with a kind of what I'd call a bathtub design. So the bit along the bottom here up a few inches is completely waterproof, so you're effectively sleeping in a giant waterproof area. And then it's got an inner mesh tent area which is good enough for one person. It's got quite a wide vestibule. If you look here, if you imagine this side just come out for it to close, there's a large enough area here to keep your backpack, shoes and a few other things if you're just hanging them up to dry while you're sleeping, or just taking them off and leaving them. The setup's really quick, doesn't take long. It has a single pole that's actually shaped, if you have a look here, it's shaped with an arch here, and it goes right over the top. It has two little arms that come off this bit, and then the same come down the other side here. So it sort of opens up into this giant frame thing, and I put some pictures on my vlog review to show you, but there's not messing around with two separate poles. It's just one big pole with lots of little branches off it. You set up the pole first, put the pole down, you then attach the mesh inner house to it, literally clip it on, which takes a few seconds, and then you can drop this waterproof cover over the top. Weight wise, it comes in at under £3, which is pretty astonishing for a tent. It's really good for a 3-season tent. It packs up pretty small too. It comes with everything you'd expect. It's got all the guy lines, it's got their little super lightweight tent pegs. I'm actually not a fan of these tent pegs. I've moaned about them before when I've looked at their mesh house. I prefer a little hook on the end here, personally. I feel like these have a tendency to go past and they just get a bit fiddly, but it's not the end of the world. And then attaching the top fly is super easy as well. You simply drop it over the top, obviously making sure you line up the zip area with the zip entry inside. And then what happens is the outer part of this tent just clips over the bottom of the pole in the same place as the pole does for the inner part of the tent. My recommendation is put the outer part on loose with this strap and then tighten it up once it's on, rather than trying to do it up tight, which is a bit tense. It's also got various little vent areas on it. You can see there's a vent area here you can pull out to just put a bit of venting in. Same on the other side. There's a vent section here too that you can just pull out and add a bit of airflow. To be honest, if it's the summer, you can probably get away with not using the overfly at all and just have it as a kind of mesh house, because you're still going to keep the bugs out and keep any dampness on the ground away from you. So you've got a few options. And then if, like me, you do a lot of multi-day stuff where weight really is a massive premium, you can sort of strip this down to a super light mode. It comes with an additional little mini ground sheet. So what you can do is do away with the mesh house entirely, and just set up the frame system with the outer bit and what they call like a footprint tarp on the bottom. And I believe from memory that brings the weight down to about £2, which is much, much lighter. On the flip side, I'd also say the mesh house on its own is quite useful. Do I have any gripes? A couple. I'm not mad on these little pegs. I prefer the aluminium or titanium ones with a little hook on the end. I'd also say they're, for future designs, I'd like to see them. They already sell a separate mesh house for one person, two person, that you can support with your own trekking pole. And a lot of us take trekking poles with us. So if there was something I'd like to see, I'd love to see them do a Dominion setup that's just the outer waterproof tent bit to go over the top of one of their existing mesh houses. So I feel like then that gives me more camping options when I'm not using a hammock. Hopefully that makes some sense. So this mesh house in here is obviously set up with their specific shaped pole, but they already do a mesh house that you can mount or set up with a hiking trekking pole. So it'd be cool to see if you could combine the two concepts here to give you a much more modular design. Other than that, it's a great little tent. The signs of the quality are there. You can see from the stitching, the tape seams, the fabric's very lightweight. Normally you see these at 14 denier, pardon the noise. Doesn't matter where you go, there's always a big loud vehicle going past. The seams are taped as well as stitched, but actually normally you might see a 40 or 60 denier fabric. This is actually a 15 denier fabric, which is still keeping the moisture out and a little bit of breathability. But there you go, that just gives you a quick walk through. This is the Outdoor Vitals. This is the one person Dominion tent. They also do a slightly larger one that's a two person for not much more weight. If you look in the description at the bottom of the video, I've put a full link to a more in-depth guide online.